Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, Part 9. I just had to pack everything up, leave the office, and deal with everything here in Spain for no money. I was totally cut off as I was not in the head office in Leeds, and once more I had to start over from scratch. I had no income whatsoever and no savings. This time it was the credit crunch that had taken its toll on One Car One, though I still find it difficult to believe that the owners had no idea it was coming. I don't regret working for One Car One, as I acquired many contacts and I had many nice experiences with them. Also, the friendship I now have with my boss, Matthew, and his wife, Shireen, is really valuable to me. I've even taught their daughter, Abigail, Spanish. She was born that awful year, and it was a very stressful time for them also. In fact, anyone who worked at One Car One. As I'm writing this or reading this, I find it difficult to believe that I'm even still here and surviving. Maybe life would have been easier if I would have stayed in the UK, but there's no guarantee of this. Once again, I had to build my classes up from scratch, and I came to believe that I was fated to be a Spanish teacher. Everything else I had tried had gone so completely wrong. As I was saying earlier, I do believe that things happen for a reason, but sometimes it's some time before we know why. I started a database. One thing I did have from One Car One were many email addresses. Maybe you'll feel it's the wrong thing to do to use this to start promoting my Spanish classes again, but you've probably never been in a situation where you were so desperate. Gradually, poco a poco, I began to fill my classes again. I started to do intensive courses, and these proved popular with people who wanted to learn Spanish quickly. From these classes, I developed a manual, and from the manual eventually emerged my first book, Break the Language Barrier Level 1. So, of course, this would never have happened if those other jobs had worked out. I've been gently pushed in the direction where I'm going for whatever reason. Level 1 was followed by level 2, then level 3, then level 4. For any of you that have progressed through these books, thank you, by the way. You will have noticed that in level 4 there are a few mistakes. I have to admit I was pretty booked out by then. I've also produced a couple of dual language storybooks, and I have several more in mind. Recently, I released the Break the Language Barrier Level 1 for Spanish people to learn English. Level 2 is in the pipeline, it's still in the pipeline. Then, of course, there is this book. I hope you've enjoyed it and not found it too whiny or traumatic. I've faced a lot of challenges on my Spanish journey, but I know so many other people have faced much more challenges than I. What I did not know 6 years ago, more years now, of course, because this 6 years from when I wrote this book, that I was about to face my biggest challenge yet. One that would very nearly sweep me away and everything I cared about. One that I would not wish on my very, very worst enemy. And I know and still know is a common problem that people face. I'm not ready yet to discuss this publicly, maybe in the next book. So that's my story of how I came to live in Spain. I hope you enjoyed reading it or listening to it, and that I haven't offended anyone. So the rest of this book consists of some of my experiences while living here, mainly in a work environment. These are stories taken from my blog, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, and they are all 100% true. Thank you for listening. I appreciate every one of you that's taken this time to spend with me. See you in the next book. Okay, so these are, I'm going to read, I will read these out as well. These are experiences, genuine experiences that I've had, either being a Spanish teacher or an interpreter. So chapter 13, Spanish teacher or agony aunt? So it was amazing how quickly the classes built up. Anyone who's ever lived in an expat community will know how small it is. For every one student I acquired at least one more. Friends, family, neighbours. This was before the advent of social media and the internet. In those days, in my part of Spain, we didn't even have proper phones, just radio phones that hardly ever worked. Mobiles were just becoming popular, but there were so few reception masts around, so coverage was sketchy to say the least. I could normally get a signal by hanging off the roof terrace with the following wind. Word of mouth and recommendation was the best way of attracting new students, along with my advert in the local television magazine. Everyone read that. Brits love their telly. One day, I received a call from a lady called Carol. Now, bear in mind, I've changed all the names. To give classes at her home in a town up the road. She had come to Spain with her much older husband, Alan, and she already had a good level of Spanish. When we come to live in a foreign country, we leave a lot of our social network behind. Friends, family, work. Many couples find they can't stand the sight of each other after just a few months thrown together with no distractions. So there are many infidelities and breakups. In the intimacy of their home, people often start to treat their Spanish class as more of a counselling session than a class. This is what happened with Carol as she began increasingly to relate her marital problems to me in Spanish. Now, that's another thing about being an empath. I'm sorry, I'm just coming away from the book a little. When you are an empath, people do tell you their problems, probably because they know you will empathise with them, or they feel that you'll empathise with them, and probably because they know that you will be discreet. I don't know what the reason is, but all my life, people have just told me their problems, which if I can help in some small way, I'm very happy to do that. But even when I was teaching Spanish, even all the time I teach Spanish, you'd be surprised what people tell you. But I think even more when I first started teaching Spanish, I was going out to people's homes to do it because I didn't have a classroom to do it in. And that was when it was more. So in the intimacy of their home, people often start to treat their class as more of a counselling session. So this lady, Carol, as I'm calling her, that's not a real name, she had quite a good level of Spanish, so she started talking to me in Spanish. And the awkward thing was that this normally took place in the kitchen as her hapless, non-Spanish speaking husband was making us a cup of tea and asking if we were okay. She'd be telling me about other things while the guy was actually in the room. So I squirmed as she gave me intimate details of her affair with a Spaniard she was having who she'd met in Benidorm, while Alan passed me the biscuits. She went on to tell me how she was going to leave Alan soon and how he couldn't perform in the bedroom, as I tried to keep a poker face and smile politely at him and accept a custard cream, trying desperately not to form a mental picture. Eventually, Carol did leave poor Alan, and she went to live with her Spanish lover. She didn't need Spanish classes anymore or counselling. Alan contacted me looking for Spanish classes, but I politely declined. I claimed my timetable was full. I think he just wanted a shoulder to cry on, but hey, don't we all? But being an agony aunt was easy compared to dealing with exhibitionists and alcoholics on their home turf. More to follow. Take care, may your God go with you.